Welcome to Sustain This, a podcast where we discuss mindful consumption, personal style, and the quest for living a more intentional life. I'm Alyssa, a sustainable stylist.
And I'm Christina, a shopaholic turned minimalist-ish.
And I'm Sina, a color consultant and slow fashion style coach.
Together, we will unpack the nuances of what it really means to be a conscious consumer and find more joy in what we have right now. So grab your tea, your coffee, or whatever floats your boat and join us in the conversation. Let's go! Yay!
Yay! Hi everyone, and welcome back to our podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in today. In today's episode, we are talking about clothing as an investment piece. And just as a little heads up, Alyssa was on summer holiday in Italy when we recorded this episode. So if the audio sounds a little bit strange as to what it usually sounds like, you know why. But yeah, let's get into it.
Oh, no, go ahead. No, what were you going to say?
No, just like, can we even talk about clothing as being an investment piece? Like, is that even possible?
Because it's such like a privileged thing, you mean?
Yeah, but also like it decreases in value. Like it's not like
yes, okay. I think this is what's like the cool thing about this. So like I'm excited to talk about today's topic. We're jumping into clothing as an investment. I think we hear this term very often, especially when we're talking about slow fashion, right? Like I've used the term, okay, but this is an investment piece. It costs a lot of money, but you're going to have it over time. And I don't know. I think this can be problematic. I mean, like all things, there's two sides. I can't wait to hear both of your takes on it. But I do think there's some verbiage around it that can maybe be a little bit misleading because, as Sina mentioned, fashion depreciates by, I think it's 50% as soon as you take the tag off. So how is it actually an investment? I really think it's more of a mindset thing. I think even if it only costs you $4, it's an investment because you're wearing it. It's becoming a part of you and your closet. But anyway, tell me, what are your thoughts? Have you guys used that term in your videos? Do you see your clothes as an investment?
Yeah, I definitely have probably used it. Like I've thought more about it over the years because I know, like you say, it's not something that will get more value over time unless it's like a vintage like Chanel bag or a Birkin bag or something, which is like really, really expensive. It's only gonna lose its value. So it's something I've definitely thought more about, like especially over the past couple of years, just as being more careful about what terms and phrases in general, regarding slow fashion, also being a bit more careful using the term sustainable fashion. I think there are some phrases and some ways to put things that we're kind of leaving behind now because it can be, like you say, Alyssa, it can be kind of misleading. When, like you say, again, I agree with everything you say, that it can be like $4. It's a mindset, it's still an investment. And getting the most wear out of your clothes as you possibly can, that's where it turns out to be a good or a bad investment. Really, I think it's a good investment if you wear it a lot, like over time. I think like that's probably the best thing you can do, like wear it over and over again.
It makes me think about this new TikTok trend called girl math. Have you heard that?
Yes.
Girl math?
Yeah, like girl, MATH.
Oh no, tell us about it. I haven't heard about that.
So it's, for example, it's like if I preloaded my Starbucks app to buy my coffee, then that coffee is free, kind of thing. Or now I've been seeing girl math being used in this exact thing, the investment piece, as cost per wear. So if I get my cost per wear, then this is less than $1, then it was a good investment. And I do believe in cost per wear. I think cost per wear is one of the barometers that you can use to see that you've gotten your money's worth, that you're getting the use out of the clothes.
Can you just explain roughly what cost per wear is for?
Yeah, so cost per wear is the price of the item divided by the number of times you've worn it. And there is a kind of standard threshold that 30 wears is kind of your goal. Like once you've hit 30 wears, you've probably gotten a good exchange for your money for the garment. But I mean, if the cost, like, if something cost you $10, you wore it twice, then it's $5 per wear. If it costs you $100 and you wear it X amount of times, then you can get it even lower. So it's really a ratio of how expensive something is versus how often you use it or wear it. So I think a lot of us use it as a guideline to guide whether or not this investment piece was a good investment. But I just noticed that TikTok is sort of taking cost per wear and hijacking it as girl math. But they're doing it in like it's lighthearted. It's meant to be a joke. But from what I see as someone who was struggling financially and had a shopping addiction and put myself into a lot of financial trouble shopping for clothes, like I used to make fun of that behavior and make fun of my debt and make fun of the financial situation. I would make light out of it. And it's like, I think it's great to have a sense of humor about these things, but it's almost that phenomenon where like if you tell yourself something enough, you start to believe it. And so it's like, oh, I'm going to spend $5,000 on this bag and I have to wear it X amount of times and I have to wear it 5,000 times to get it under $1. And it's like, how many times, like you can't even do that in a year. Like it's, you know what I mean? It's just, so I feel like that can sort of run away from us a little bit and we just need to be a little careful. So from a financial aspect, I'm wary of using the term investment piece / relying solely on cost per wear to justify the purchase. So that's where my sort of perspective has been on that.
Yeah, it was really good. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned cost per wear because I think, as you said, that's probably the best metric you can use. Like if you want to put like a specific number on it, and if you really want to, make sure that it was a good investment. I think also that we use the term as a way to, I think people use it with good intention. Like we use that term because we actually want to be more mindful and more intentional with our purchases. And I think that we genuinely believe that by investing in something that, urge to get that piece will kind of disappear. But it's not a given, it can be, okay, I'm going to save up for a Burberry trench coat. And then once you get it, the rush or the excitement for getting that piece can disappear pretty quickly. And it's just until you find that next perfect trench coat or that next perfect piece you want to buy. So I think it's really important that, we get to the root of the problem. Kind of what you said, Christina, that, we kind of need to be honest with ourselves. Like the investment piece is not going to make the urge for shopping or buying new things magically disappear. And I think sometimes, especially when you're trying to build a minimalist wardrobe or a capsule wardrobe, like definitely quality over quantity is a great way of thinking. Again, I love that idea, but I think we need to be careful not to rely on that way of spending as a way to heal ourselves or like to refrain from frivolous purchases, because it can just spiral into becoming a new way of over consuming.
Totally.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I like how you mentioned that we use the fact that we're going to invest in something as almost like it's like the reason, it's like the driving factor. It's like it becomes the good reason to buy something if you have like a pro and a con list. It's like, oh well, I'm investing in it, or this is going to be something that's going to be in my wardrobe for a long time. But for me and my behavior, I would tell myself that all the time and then I would still go shopping. I'd be like, oh, I have this forever trench. I only need one. I don't need any more. And then, 2 weeks later, I'm looking at another trench coat. So like, I don't know how you explain that behavior. That's like that compulsion and just that, things newness or craving for newness and always wanting something. And don't get me wrong, because I do believe that clothing can be an investment in certain ways, but it's just really like being honest with what's the real reason. Do you just want it? Because I would tell myself this, I just really want it. And then I would create reasons to justify it. And investing in the piece would be one of those reasons.
Yeah.
And like, if it's expensive, just own it. Like, who cares? Like, if you have the money and you want it, buy it. Like, You don't have to say that you invested in it to make it a good reason to buy it.
Because then you're being more honest with yourself and more honest with the purchase that way.
Yeah.
I also think it's interesting to bring up I think talking about things as investment purchases also underscores the false reality that a bigger price tag automatically means higher quality or like higher construction or whatever. Like that's not always the case. You can find something thrifted for $5 and it is a better quality than what you would find from a designer off the rack these days. So I think that's something that we have to be careful about too, and why I like both of your points about how it's really about looking at it as an investment in yourself. And I had found a quote. I don't know if this is too dark. I had found a quote.
Bring it on.
To Christina's point, where you were like, I don't understand, like what is it about humans, like the psychological factor about how we always need new. And there was, I guess I found this on Remake Our World. I must have put this in like weeks ago. But a study of 2,500 consumers over 6 years concluded that no matter how much money you had to spend, materialism was linked to an increase in loneliness. And loneliness in turn increases materialism. So this was sourced from Remake Our World from A Life Less Throwaway, The Lost Art of Buying by Tara Button. I'll put that in the show notes. But I just thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. And there is a loneliness epidemic, especially post-pandemic. And people working from home and all of that. So I can,
and
relate.
you turn to shopping as a way to cope with all that and give you some sort of a satisfaction.
Yeah.
Like it's linked to positive feelings for a lot of people to shop and buy new things. Like which,
yeah. So
we like doing things that make us feel happy,
even
if it's just for
temporary.
That's right.
Yeah, I wonder about it's a big cycle. So it's hard to get out of it. And I guess that's it. If maybe we switch the term from it's not so much a financial investment, but it's an investment in ourselves.
In yourself. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
because I don't really have any I personally I don't mind the term like investing in something, but as you say, Alyssa, I think it's very much about like, okay, but what kind of investment is it? Because it can never be a financial investment unless it's a really expensive item that, again, a vintage Chanel bag or whatever it might be that might increase in value over time. But
But like, even with that, can I just ask, like, so you sold your vintage Chanel. Did you make more back than what you got for it?
Like, I didn't. No, because it was in very poor condition when I bought it, and it was even in poor condition when I sold it. So I also, for myself, it was like, okay, I know it's a really old bag, but I cannot bring myself to get, require more money for a bag that's in such bad condition.
Yeah, but even with that, like, I feel, if I bought like an Hermes Birkin or whatever, I can't use it now. It has to sit in my vault for it to appreciate in value, because it's going to get wear and tear. And like, I'm not a Hermes Birkin expert, but that's just my thought. Like, if you're buying something with the idea that it's going to increase in value, and it has said like Hermes, Chanel, I think they've increased higher than the S&P 500 in terms of like the stock market. So they've gone up like 14% year on year, and the stock market average is like 7 to 10% or something like that. So, but it's not a liquid investment. If I need the money, like, I can't. And again, if you've been wearing it, my concern is that, you're going to scratch it. It's going to tarnish. The hardware is going to tarnish. So is it really going to be worth more? Like, maybe, I don't know. If you guys are watching on YouTube, leave me a comment. Maybe you have a little bit more experience on that, but that's just my thought, in the sense of like, if I'm buying, especially a bag that increases in value, does it have to sit behind a glass door? For me to be able to cash in on that investment.
I feel like that's more common sense. Like, but I don't know. Yeah.
Maybe the flip side of it too is like, it's kind of cool to see these things as a quote unquote investment, because then it means like maybe that'll spur you to repair it more. Like I was thinking when you were like, oh, the
I like that.
Birkin. So maybe it's like, this was an investment. Now I need to take care of it because it was an investment. Not in the sense of I don't use it, but like, why don't I find someone who does the like refurbishing or whatever, or get the zipper replaced? So that could be more like a positive approach to
I
seeing
do like
something
that,
as an
yeah.
investment.
Mhm.
I mean, I feel
Yeah,
like,
so like it also becomes a mindset, like you said earlier, that it's definitely more about that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so something becomes worth the price rather than an actual investment.
I was just going to
Agreed.
say, but then I think, again, that's why it's still so important to see everything as an investment, because even if you've got something that you paid $5 for, like, I'll still get it repaired. Like, the whole point is longevity. It's not like, yes, obviously saving our finances and everything is great, but ultimately keeping things for as long as you have and making them exciting and new again is the ultimate goal, so that we don't fall into that consumer hole. So there's, I don't know, there's always like 8 sides to every coin, but whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Christina, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say, I think it kind of ties into our conversation about fashion being frivolous. It's almost like we need to create a reason to justify wanting to buy something, and how I like, so if I say that it's an investment, again, on that like pro and con list, it makes me feel better about the purchase, because simply just wanting something for the sake of wanting it, in the sense of like, I like it, I'm going to wear it, whatever. When I became debt free, I feel like, and like really cleaned up my relationship with money and stuff, and even minimalism, I really had to do a lot of work to accept that like clothing is one of my money dials. So it's like, I love spending money on health and like wellness at the gym. I love spending money on clothes, like I love it. And I love spending money on like food and experiences with like my friends and family. So those are like 3 of my money dials. But because I had that fashion is frivolous, or I shouldn't want these things, and because it's, potentially wasteful for the environment, like there's a lot of other reasons, but like you can want something for the sake of wanting it, and that can be enough. So if it's a piece of clothing that you're thinking about buying, like that, to me, that's okay. Like, obviously, we still have to watch our consumption and your finances. Can you afford it? All of that stuff, right? But like, simply wanting something for the sake of wanting it without having to justify it and create like a laundry list of why, I think, because when it comes down to it, if you like something and you want it, you just want it. Like, do you have anything in your wardrobe that's just like, this makes no sense with the rest of my wardrobe, but I had to have this. This is just something that gave me like an emotional, visceral reaction. It's hard to wear. It doesn't match, but I love it and I wanted it and I got it. Like, I feel like we all have something like that in our wardrobe. So I think just accepting what kind of like your money dial is, what you like to spend money on unapologetically, is a very helpful way to just own what you like. And kind of get away from that frivolity of it. And if you guys want to learn more about that, definitely check out the book I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. That book goes into a lot more depth about finding out your money dials and where you sort of can spend extravagantly guilt-free within your budget on things that you love, and then you cut mercilessly what you don't. And that really just helps you just own what you like.
Yeah, because I feel like then you can always move on from there. As you said, then, okay, the sustainability aspect of it, how can I keep nurturing that part of me that, if I enjoy getting new clothes frequently, how can I do that in a way where I'm not doing it in a super wasteful, not very environmental friendly way?
Like, I think I'm talking more in the sense of like accepting that, like, your wardrobe's going to be bigger. It's not going to be this like little minimalist wardrobe. Or if you like thrifting, then maybe you will have a larger wardrobe, things like that. it's all the use and like the emotional attachments that you have to it. But I'm just saying that if you like doing that, then like if you like clothes as part of like your where you like to spend money, where you like to maybe quote unquote invest, then I feel like you should be able to do that without having to justify the hell out of it.
I think you said a really good word and point, Christina, which was accepting the fact, like just accept it, which is such a huge part of just, I guess, personal growth and development as well. But it's like, I think the sooner you start to accept what it is, what your, as you said, your money dials are or whatever, as soon as you start to accept that, okay, yeah, my closet isn't going to be that Pinterest perfect, tiny closet with a perfect row of shoes, then I think you allow yourself so much more freedom to actually make better choices because you're not trying to be something you're not. Like, I think in any way, even if you're trying to perhaps consume less, yes, that's a wonderful goal. But if you're still not being true to yourself in that sense, you're going to keep consuming because you're not being good to yourself in that way. You're still trying to be someone you're not. So like, just own your shit, I guess.
Yeah, like it's very nuanced and there's obviously like it's complicated because you're right. It can turn into hyperconsumption and like all that stuff, and then you can kind of like feel buried in that and whatever. But I just think for me, wanting something for the sake of wanting it, sometimes that's what I felt like I needed.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I could just like justify the fun out of everything. But I wanted to talk about when do you think a piece can be an investment? Have there been scenarios or times where something has been you've gotten the return or like you would definitely call it an investment?
100%. Oh, that's okay. I understand the question now. Sorry, I didn't get it before. Yeah. So a really good example is my Loewe puzzle, which I know it's so silly. Okay, but here's the thing with the puzzle. I had been searching and saving for like three years, and I just couldn't swallow. I was looking secondhand. Like, there's no way I would buy that first whatever on retail because it's like they're like $5,000 or something now. And so I was looking secondhand. My price limit was $2,000, which you can't find a puzzle for less than like $2,700, $2,800. But I found one for $2,000 and I did it. I was like, yes, here we go. But I love this bag so much, and I'm not a bag person. I find more value in things when I don't like them, like sandals and purses. Like I'm not a sandal person, I'm not a bag person. So when I find something that I like, done. Now knowing this bag, how good it is, how much I love it, I love it so much. It was such a good investment, quote unquote, that it is to the point where I'm going to work on replacing all of my bags to make them like a puzzle. I only need 2, I think, or maybe 3. And I would literally, like, I know they're discontinuing the kind that I like for the new strap, which drives me bananas. But anyway, I would actually pay full retail. Like I love that bag so much, but I wouldn't just drop, if I couldn't afford it, I wouldn't drop everything. Like I would still like plan and save for it. I'm waiting. Yeah. But that is probably the best example for me of like an actual investment because of how good that bag is and how well it serves me. But because I don't like bags, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean? Because then I'm not searching anymore. I'm no longer searching for a bag that I'm satisfied with. The end. Oh, I love that bag. Sorry.
I love it.
That's nice.
Thanks. Love story. And that actually, I think that's an interesting point too, is like, I think it's okay to be, we've talked about this before, like it's okay to be so materialistic in that sense, I think, because then you love it.
Yeah.
You wear it all the time.
Totally agree.
I don't know. Anyway, what about you guys?
I mean, I think a lot about like cost per wear, and it's mostly like looking back because I feel like cost per wear is hard to predict, right? When you're buying something, you buy it with the best intentions, but you can never be 100% sure if it's going to be. You can learn a lot about your style so that you definitely like increase the possibility of it becoming a really good investment, if you will. But I think like something that immediately comes to mind for me is like something like my trench coat from Everlane. It was actually gifted to me by the brand at the time. I got it in, I think, either 2017 or 18. I'm not fully sure. But it's about 6 years old now, and I wear that jacket so much, especially during spring and autumn, and it's kind of like being torn apart in the lining inside now because I've worn it so much, and it's kind of being like discolored some places. But it's definitely like, in terms of cost per wear, I know that I didn't necessarily pay for it with my own money, but even if I did, like, I've bought a lot of things from Everlane, and I still love the quality of their pieces. I feel like that was a really good investment for me and my style, I guess. It's just so spot on, and it's like, I have other jackets in my wardrobe too, but I feel like as a transitional jacket, it's definitely one of those jackets I've worn the absolute most. Like, I wear that jacket so much. So I think that's more in terms of it, like, yeah, also just being the right style for me. Like, I want to wear it, like, I just never get tired of it.
I totally would have thought you would have mentioned your Acne Studios.
Oh yeah. They were a good investment
like,
too. Yeah,
I feel like those are like 50 cents a wear at this point.
Yeah, because they're even older, and I'm
That's
and maybe
awesome.
it's because I was packing today and I hung out my trench coat to make it ready for when I'm going to Copenhagen tomorrow. So that was like, It just came to mind. But yeah, my Acne Studios boots were definitely a good purchase too. Like, they're just some pieces that you never get tired of. Totally.
Yeah, I find, like, if I'm talking about investment pieces, for me, I have to sort of so if we're talking financial investment piece, any piece I feel like that helps me make money or do my work is like a good piece. So not in the sense of like influencing and whatnot, but more like when I'm going to my actual 9-to-5 job at the pharmacy, like, there's a dress code, that kind of thing. So it's like, if I've bought, a pair of like black wide leg trousers, I can wear those. Literally, I've like worn them all week long with like different tops and blazers and stuff like that. And it's like clothing that sort of adheres to the dress code, but is still my style, that I can wear inside and outside of work. I feel like that's been a good investment. But even if like you work like at a construction site, for example, like your steel toe boots or something are a good investment, because like they're something that actually you need in order to do your job and make money and like that kind of thing. So it's like, it's not the individual piece that you're making the money back on, because you're probably going to wear it down and use it constantly. It's more like, this piece is helping me do my job. So if we're talking about like return on investment, that's kind of the ROI that I see in those types of pieces.
I love that perspective. Like, it's and I think that's why many people are drawn to like a pared down wardrobe, because it makes them, it helps them get dressed easier. At least that's probably the goal, that it takes away some of the stress, because things just work and they just fit.
What's a good investment piece to you, Sina? Like, what does that mean? Not talking like financially, or like, what does it look like to you?
I think, to me, like, it's just really simply like an item that I want to wear like over and over again. Like, when I have like a few pieces in my wardrobe like that, where it's just like I wear them at least 2 times per week. So for me, it's a good investment piece is something that I just want to keep wearing, and something that sits well. Like, comfort is really important. Obviously, I think that's important for most people. But yeah, comfort, and it being a style that I just never really get tired of. And also just being able to style it pretty easily. Like, not necessarily every single piece in my wardrobe will go together, or I won't necessarily pair everything I have in my wardrobe, across. But also, just as my wardrobe as a whole, I feel like that's a quality like a good quality wardrobe is one that you want to wear, and that, I don't know. To me, it just has to be like easy and effortless to put together outfits.
Well, that's what made me think about it. I loved Christina's point about like, does this help me like live my life every day? Like my real life, my work, I thought that was really interesting.
I love that perspective. Yeah.
So can clothing really be an investment? I say yes, it can. It's all about perspective. I really want to go back to what Alyssa said about how it's an investment in yourself, whether it be like what you're doing or your own authenticity, things like that. I think that it's probably the ultimate investment, versus like rationalizing away spending the money kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that was a great summary. Let's leave it off here, and we would love to know what you think. If you're watching on YouTube, leave us a comment below, or always subscribe to the podcast. You can find us anywhere you hear your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, all those cool places, and you can also find us on IG. We'll see you guys next week. Ciao.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for joining in our conversation this week. If you're enjoying the show, we'd love it if you subscribe to the podcast on Spotify and Apple and leave us a rating and review. It's one of the best ways to support the Sustain This podcast at zero cost to you.
We're also a community-led podcast, so if you have any questions for us, topic requests, or even guests you want to hear from, please send us a DM on Instagram at sustainthis_podcast. We read all of our comments and look forward to hearing from you.
We hope you join us again next Tuesday, where we'll talk about so much more than clothes. Ciao!